for taking the time to have a conversation with me.
Happy to do it.
I'll give you a context so that you understand what we are doing briefly. So with the Trinity University, we got a grant from the Mellon Foundation. It's called the Mellon Institute. That is summer research project. And we were to do a project on immigration. We were to do to examine the lives of immigrants in the San Antonio region. And then we were to go to Sicily and do the same with the migrants from Africa. And then in San Antonio, do a project using performance, so what is called forum theater projects on the immigration here, and then do another project with the immigrants in Sicily. We couldn't do that because of COVID-19. So we retooled. The team is really comprised of myself and two colleagues. One teaches international law and human rights, Rosa Aloisi, and then Robert Weska, who teaches communication, plus 4 students from different majors. So we decided to respond to what is happening right now. What an opportunity. So the project now is centered around the response of the various administrations around the world on COVID-19 and whether their response had a negative impact on human rights, specifically the marginalized population. And at the same time, since the artists seem to be a little bit marginalized now, what the artists are doing, how that COVID-19 impacted them, are really talking about the artists more than their art. So this is what I have been doing for the past 5 weeks, talking with different artists from around the world and getting directly from the source how they are experiencing COVID-19 and what they are doing, how they are reacting, what is happening to them. And what really forced us, and especially me, to look at that, because the first things that I was reading in the newspapers is that, in Italy and here, is that the art was dead. There was no art anymore because the COVID-19 was erasing everything. And I said, that's not true. Let's ask the artists and let's see what they are doing. So that's what I was reading. And that's, I know that also you have dedicated some time on this. So I am also aware of your work. So I'm excited. So that's where we are now. So I think that the journalists are also artists, but that's my opinion. I don't know what you feel. And I wanted to be a journalist when I was young. And then I found theater, but I love journalism. They are, for me, not only artists, but they are essential to this moment. They are essential workers. So I thought, let me ask David, what is happening with him? So first, really where David was when the news, he knew that we were going on lockdown. And how that has impacted David work and also the tools for you to do your job, right?
Yes.
And so we can start from here. It's very informal, and we are going to use this for to share with all our team members, to share with all the other artists and not only artists, but scholars that are part of this project. They are contributing like you are. And also we are going to create a documentary. So something of it is may end up there. But all the interviews or the conversations will be posted on social media so that you know. And I mentioned that before. Okay.
Okay, so where was I when I started realizing that we were getting ready to enter into this historic period dealing with the pandemic. So because of what I do, I'm kind of like in the crow's nest of the, like in a ship, and you have a guy up in the crow's nest. He's able to look just a little bit further over the horizon. I talk to a lot of experts. I'm reading everything. I'm consuming a lot of information. I have a little bit of historic background. I kind of get to see things maybe just a half beat before maybe the general public does, and then they learn kind of what's going on from me. So I was seeing what was happening around the world. I knew what was coming, that there was a deadly virus, highly contagious. We were not prepared for it. Reading about, what was happening in China, how they were reacting to it. So I just took a walk. I took a walk around downtown San Antonio. We just opened up our new radio headquarters, and I walked into Market Square, and I could see people milling around, enjoying the day. It was like a fiesta. They're going to have the Tejano fan fiesta that weekend there, and when I realized this is not going to happen. This event that they think they're going to have is not going to happen. They don't know it, and I can't tell them it's not, but I know it's not going to happen because it hasn't been made official yet. And I got a gordita from a nice lady in a food booth, and it was delicious. And I'm thinking, this is the last time I'm going to be able to have this experience like this with this people, with their families, and they're having beer and limonada and all these great agua frescas and the San Antonio experience. And I'm thinking, I'm able to see just before the lights are turned out what's going on. And then I go back to my office, and I go back to work, writing stories. And then the news came, they're shutting it down. Everything, the restaurants, they're not going to let any more people, more table service. You got to shut it down. And on my way home, I drive past, Mi Tierra restaurant, and I see the waiters coming out. You can see it in their face. They were just told it's only going to be for a week, 2 weeks maybe, while we get this thing figured out. But, I knew this was going to be a long time. But still, they were in shock. I could see it in their face that they're going, what am I going to do? How am I going to feed my family? How am I going to take care of my family? How am I going to, their whole world has been pulled out from under them. It's just, and I'm going, they don't even know half of it. I'm thinking, you guys don't even know what's really going on. And I felt bad for all these people. What's been going on is this slow moving train wreck of a tragedy. It's just been hitting the people. It's like in one frame at a time, and hitting the low wage earners, people of color, people on the margins the hardest, people working in the hospitality industry in San Antonio, just being pummeled. On March 12th, it's when the NBA announced they weren't going to have any more seasons. They put the season on suspense. They don't really tell you right away what's going to go on. They want to break the news to everyone softly. We're going to put the NBA season on hold, okay? And then after they do that, then they say, okay, we're not going to have an NBA season this year, and we don't know if we're going to have one next year. They haven't said that yet, but they don't want to tell everyone everything all at once. They're trying to break the news softly to people. And so you think about, God, who those guys that made their money parking cars, selling beer, helping people to their seats at the Spurs games, they lose their jobs, and these were the people who were, they're the backbone of San Antonio. And then the lady who sold me the gordita from a little food booth, that's her little enterprise, There's no separating her from that food booth. That food booth was her. It sustained her and her family. There was no difference between the money that went into the cash register, the till, you know, and the money that goes into her pocket. It's all the same. We shut that down. What's going to happen to that lady? What's going to happen to all these people who are all still dependent on this? So that's the economic part of it. But the reality of it is that this is a horrible disease that is ripping its way through our community. It didn't have to happen. This was totally unnecessary. It could have been avoided. But, you know, at the time, everyone was talking about flatten the curve, flatten the curve. That was what we were told to do. We don't say that much anymore. Now we're all focusing on, let's get back to business. Let's open up the economy. But at the time, the science was able to express itself very well, and the political opposition to it was muted because they hadn't organized yet and they hadn't found their talking points yet. So we're able to talk about, we need to flatten the curve, we need to get people in their homes, we got to keep them safe, social distancing. And at the time, I'm thinking, this is great, this is a good idea, but this is not going to last. How long can we keep people in their homes? How long can we keep these businesses shut down? I'm thinking maybe 4 weeks, maybe. And this is valuable time that we need to use to contain the virus, isolate it, limit its spread, and maximize testing, increase hospital capacity, increase contact tracing, figure out if I got the disease, who have I been, it's about managing the crisis. Unfortunately, the time that we had was squandered, it was wasted. And because none of the things were done that only the federal government could do, this couldn't be done on the local level. This couldn't be done on the state level. This is why we have a federal government. This is why we have a CDC. And so all that was squandered. And I'm watching all this. And I got to tell you, it's heartbreaking. It is devastating. I literally have nightmares about what is going on, seeing how people are suffering, hearing about it, people telling me their stories, and I feel like this was so unnecessary. Had we had the proper response initially and not denied that this was what it was, a naturally occurring virus that came into our country through international travel and would have impacted, you know, it's a novel virus, people don't have immunity, and that we would just, if we had managed it from the very beginning, so much like Germany, which has not had the impact that we've had here in the United States, we would be in a better position right now. So for me, I've been very fortunate. You know, I still have my job. I'm able to just take care of my family, not gotten sick, try to maintain social distancing as much as we can, but it's still just been, this is a tragedy that we are witnessing, and what I'm trying to do is document that, communicate that, help people understand what are these complex forces that are at play right now, help them understand how they can try to keep themselves safe. So that's where I'm at.
So this conversation is also another opportunity for us to document what is happening, because as an artist, and that's the conversation I had with other artists, one of the things that we need to do is to document exactly what's happening and then respond creatively to that, so that once we are past this, and we will never be really past this, it's going to be something completely new. We will create a memory of what is happening right now, so that as artists, we are contributing to making sure to remind people of what was happening. No? So the artist that is documenting, like journalist does, and then elaborate the work metaphorically at times very realistically, create a memory that then in 1 year from now we can see. And so that's something of the that we are doing. So,
right, so can I just add on to that really quick?
Please.
So this event, well, I described it as a slow moving train wreck, but when we look back on it, it's hard to remember things that happen in order, and it's hard to remember the feelings that we felt along the way. And we kind of always have, you know, this illusion of memory where, you know, the furniture moves around inside our head all the time. And there's some people who try to take advantage of that and tell us, well, you know, we did this, we responded in this way, and we had all that testing, and it's like, no, we didn't. So we have to not only just, you know, document that this horrible tragedy happened and is happening, and it's going to continue to happen, and it's going to get much, much worse. We have to document like right now, like today, in the process. You know, we have cases of coronavirus happening at the White House, or in the West Wing of the White House, in the Trump administration with Mike Pence and his senior staffers. We have that happening. Meanwhile, we're continuing to relax our social distancing. We have people who are challenging wearing the mask rule as some sort of violation of their civil rights, which it is not. We have people demanding that we reopen these businesses, and I understand why they might want to do that, but at the same time, we have to recognize when we're talking about reopening commerce to, you know, people to go get their jobs, we're also reopening society to the coronavirus without all these other measures that should be in place, which should have been in place when people were initially on lockdown. So looking at where we are right now, we have evidently this false sense of security that maybe we're on the other side of it. Here in San Antonio, we're seeing our numbers starting to decline with the number of COVID-19 cases that have been detected. We're thinking, okay, you know, that's a positive sign. Yet, it's still not low enough. The health experts say it's not low enough. And we're probably going to see a massive bloom of COVID-19 cases ripping through the entire population, and people getting sick, and the flattening of the curve, which we had done successfully, we couldn't maintain because of horrific leadership, we're going to see the worst of it. But right now, that hasn't happened. And we're being told, oh, it'll be fine. It'll be great.
How to answer to that? Yeah. And knowing this, and having the obligation as a journalist, I don't know what the obligations as journalists are, but I think that one of the obligations is to share with the public correct information, right? I think that's what it is, right?
Yeah.
Knowing this, and knowing this, that is also something, a gut feeling also, right? Because you don't have the information. How do you
I don't report gut feelings.
Right.
No.
I know. How do you deal with this?
You get very sad. You get really sad. You get very frustrated. To me, this is cut along the same lines of climate change,
right,
where we have obvious scientific evidence explaining that we have a tragic event that's going to have huge, massive consequences for society and for our economy and for our civilization. And we have people who are denying it or who are downplaying it. and who are ignoring it. And you can say, I'm in the crow's nest and I'm looking above a little bit further the horizon. I see Miami gone. I see Houston gone. I see all sorts of tragic things happening. I see the incredible heat that's going to envelop parts of the world that are going to make it almost uninhabitable for human life. I see the seas rising, seas acidifying, horrible events that are coming, and they're coming to pass, and what's being done about it right now. As we talk about COVID-19, maybe we've dialed down pollution a little bit and carbon a little bit, but not enough. I mean, and that was just, we still don't have a long-term permanent solution to dealing with that problem. So, these are the things that are happening. And I think that human beings, we're not well equipped to deal with these types of things. So, I can report, hey, this is happening. And it's like, the bell ringing in the wilderness, there's no one out there.
Right, right. But that's something that the artist can do.
Sure.
Right? And it's very traumatic for me in San Antonio. I was in Italy when they closed the country down. I was in Palermo, and on, I think it was March 8th, I was about to teach a workshop at the university there, and they closed the schools. So I had to run back to Rome, to my home, and then try to come back to the States. So I had also a bit of information that others did not have. Because I flew to New York on a flight of one of the huge airplanes with about 25 passengers in it. And Italy was shut down. The Fiumicino airport was empty. And I could come back because I am also an American citizen. And there was an agreement between the Italian government, the American government, that some flights from Alitalia could go back, or could bring back American citizens. So that's how I got here. Of course, when I got to New York, it was madhouse. I mean, nobody, Fiumicino, millions of people at the, I was a Kennedy, and it was like shocking. It was very shocking. Anyway, so, but knowing that the artists in San Antonio lost all the funding.
Sure.
First thing to go. And I thought, no, we need, I'm not saying because I am also an artist, a performance artist. I thought we do need these people to be able to respond to what is happening right now in ways others can't. Right?
Right. I mean,
and
yes.
They are taking away all their tools. So they are also they are also essential workers.
Well, okay, so are they taking away all of their tools? No, they're not.
No.
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 Okay.
No.
All right.
No,
if you're an artist, you're going to find a way to make art. Okay.
That's my point. So the artists, and I want to make this argument, is my soapbox. We are used to this.
Sure.
So we go from crisis to crisis in our creation, right? We are troubleshooters, right?
Sure.
We
anytime there's a rise of an authoritarian regime, the journalists and the artists are the first to get whacked out, So
or put in a box, right?
Yes.
The realistic artist of the German, the Nazis.
Yeah, it's going to be the regime-pleasing form of their expression.
Right. And now the artists are just concerned with this. And my question is this: where are the artists? I tried to talk to Ron, and he's busy. I haven't been able to. And I'm asking myself, who is advising Ron, our mayor?
Right, Nuremberg.
Ron Nuremberg. And he has a potential here of collaborators in the artists that can give him some solutions, some ideas, because we do live in isolation also all the time when we create. I mean, the artists are the people that have been in quarantine and have been losing their money at times and living with a smaller budget, troubleshooting. They are the survivors. And I think that so many of us can learn from the artists.
Sure.
And I think that a point has to be made that, yeah, we should not be getting the crumbs. We should not be begging. We're not begging for some money, but to have a place around the table and help being the solution and create a solution. I think that should be considered.
So the plague, Black Death, Europe in the Middle Ages.
Right.
But after that, we had the rise of the Renaissance.
Right.
We had the rise of science, the rise of science and scientific theory and thinking. So I'm looking for some hope in what's going on here. When we get through this, and we will, what will things look like on the other side? And I'm hoping that there will be an embrace, a re-embrace of scientific reasoning and art, because art is important to the human condition, because when it's done well, it triggers a cathartic response. You know, the Greeks required all of their people to go to their plays and witness them for the benefit of the community. You know, it was to witness these tragedies, to witness and have a cathartic response. And I think, you know, everyone is being traumatized right now. Everyone is going to be suffering through some form of PTSD, not to, you know, try to trifle what that's like for people who've really had a severe traumatic experience. But I do think, you know, we're going to have fear of crowds, we're going to have fear of germs, we're going to have fear of connectivity, you know, and this isolation that we're all going through right now, and a lot of questions are being raised about what is our community and who are we, and how will we come out of this in the end. So I do think that there's a lot of important questions that artists can be tackling right now, and I'm looking forward to seeing what's delivered, you know, on the stage and on the page and in three-dimensional objects and everything in between.
Can I argue something?
Yes.
It's true. The Greeks used the arts to educate the public, their community, right?
Yeah.
But in this moment, it's not anymore about the art of the artists, not that, but it's about the tools that artists have within themselves, that they have created in creating their art, that can help us move on the other side. Why wait? I'm talking about the tools. The art, let's separate, because that's the problem. We think about the art mostly, but we don't think about the artist. The artist is a great resource. The artist, not the art, is a great resource. And we are not to wait for them. They will create art. They are creating art. They will always create art. But if there is a new paradigm here, a new way of looking at life, because we don't want to go to the old system, right? That failed us. But if there is a new way of looking at life, and that what they call new normal, which I hate, can we look at the art and the artists in a new way? I bet that there are so many artists that, if asked, are according to their own talents and craft, to find solution to this moment. They could contribute. I'm not saying they're going to solve the problem, because we can only solve it together. There is not going to be one person. I think that that's what I'm trying to argue. And that, you know why I'm arguing this, David? I didn't know this when I started talking to the artists. In talking to them, I thought, oh my gosh, the artist is not just her art. The artist is also her craft, the way she or he looks at life, you know? So that's the conversation we are having. So, and I think that for the journalists, it's the same or similar. I mean, that's your profession. I don't want to talk about that.
Sure.
But there is a vitality in delivering the news, in finding the right news, in that can help us figuring out, because the best people here are trying to figure out, okay, how do I deal with this? Well, you are doing that. And a new way of approaching troubleshooting, problem solving, I think there must be something. I'm just asking the question. What do you think about that, David?
Well, I mean, I'm not really sure what you're asking me. I mean, I don't really see myself as an artist. I just see myself as someone who's, a storyteller and a communicator. I do like working with artists and trying to develop projects to tell stories and inform people, who are practical individual, trying to come up with practical solutions, letting people know. But we have to engage people on that level of entertainment and try to get into some of their psychic responses to things, to tap into maybe some questions that people don't know that they're asking, or help them get there but not push them too far and too fast. But we are dealing with a massive humanitarian crisis. I mean, just like immigration,
right.
Just like we're having, on our southern border. Just as we're talking about COVID-19, they're still separating families on the border. They're still building a border wall. They're still magnifying these inequities that we have on our planet. To me, those are stories that have to be told. And we talk about documenting these events is because tomorrow they will tell us it didn't really happen, or it didn't happen that way, or it wasn't that bad, you're exaggerating. It's like, they're going to say, where's your evidence that we had thousands of migrants dying in the South Texas desert? And, and this, we simply say, we have the evidence, we've collected it, we've reported on it along the way. And so where's your evidence that the federal government completely botched the response to the COVID-19 outbreak? We have to be able to present that and present it in a way that is not partisan or loaded, or say these are the facts, and we have them at our disposal because we have been reporting on this along the way. And hopefully, so that's material that artists can use, can pick up and work with. So I'm not an artist. I'm just a guy telling stories, getting the facts, getting them out there. Maybe I'm supplying some raw material to someone who can turn that into something much more elegant. I'm just a working Joe.
Right.
But you know, I do miss being right now in the pandemic, being able to get out and talk to people. I'm not able to do that as much as I am used to doing, and going out and meeting people where they are and seeing where they are. During this lockdown, you know, I don't want to get coronavirus. I don't want to get sick. You know, what a horrible way to die. To have this thing, you know, pink froth coming out of your mouth, filling up your lungs, gasping for every breath, hoping you get it on a ventilator. And if you do come out of it, survive it, you're going to be a shell of your former self. It's just a terrible thing to have happen to you or for anyone else. And I think that that's also something else that we're not doing a very good job of communicating to people. There's still active forces out there that are trying to pass this off as not that bad, but it is a horrible disease. And we're only now beginning to understand what it does to your kidneys and your blood and all these other things. So, but I really miss being able to go out and talk to people and meet people. And all this stuff online is a poor substitute. I mean, I'd rather be sitting down with you in person, talking to you, and getting a better feel for you.
So how is this changing the way you are reporting? Because you are not having this interaction, and this is
changes everything. So we know part of my job is to host a live call-in radio program, and typically I would have live guests with me in the studio, and now we can't do that, not at all. No live guests in the studio, and so everything's got to be over the phone or through Zoom or something else. And so I don't get to read their expressions like I typically would. If they like a question, they don't like a question. If their skin changes color, things like that, you know, you say, oh, okay, back off, press harder. That's different. But, you know, since this thing broke out, and since about Friday the 13th is kind of when it really hit. It's here in San Antonio. We've done nothing but coronavirus stories since then on our daily call-in show, and also with the Texas Matters and other reporting that I'm doing, trying to really help people understand things like why you can't get toilet paper, and why do you want toilet paper? Why does everybody kind of, you know, I take a daily class in Spanish online with people in Venezuela, and so every night I sign on and I talk Spanish and practice my Spanish. And they're saying toilet paper, you know, we haven't had toilet paper for years. You know, you'll get over it. It's no big deal. You got bigger things to worry about, whether or not you're going to have toilet paper or not. And it's like, yeah, it's perspective. You know, stop worrying about that. Treasure what you do have and opportunities you do have, people who are close to you, and can be safe. That's the most important thing. But we need a vaccine. So far, the federal government has botched the vaccine effort, trying to outsource it to private entities, and avoiding working with the World Health Organization on a global vaccine program. all these things are going to make this worse. They're prolonging the catastrophe. The reopening of the economy is actually going to cost more than if people were able to stay in their homes a little bit longer and if we got this under control. And we're not, and I'm always just so frustrated that I don't feel like I'm doing a very good job of explaining to people what is going on, what is at stake, what we've lost so far. By the end of this week, we will have reached 100,000 people dead in the United States from COVID-19, which is shocking, which should be horrible, except to realize a month later, it will be 200,000 or more, or 250,000. So it is hard for people to fathom the breadth and the scope of what's going on even today after we've been at this for 5 weeks. And I feel frustrated that I'm not able to communicate this properly to people about what's happening right now, because the fog of war is so thick that we can't see what's happening right in front of us.
So you as a journalist, also Texas Public Radio, are also dealing with this perception that people have that there is a lot of fake news out there. Who to trust, right? Because once you go on the social media, you are, at least I'm phrasing what really that is. This complete inability at times, even for someone who keeps himself informed, like I am, tries figuring out, okay, what is happening? How are you in Texas Public Radio dealing with this lack of trust at times on the ability of the news to be real news?
Well, you have to think about this in terms of the overall population. The vast majority of the American people are well informed. And the vast majority of American people do not believe in fake news that's put out there. They don't think this is just a flu. They don't think that this is something that was generated by the Chinese to attack America. They don't believe that. They know that, and the polling data shows us that the majority of Americans recognize that President Donald Trump is the #1 source of misinformation about this than any other thing in the world, and that he is a biased source and he's only interested in his own. He's thought about this as a public information crisis or public relations crisis more than a public health crisis from the very beginning and even until today. It's not about public health. For him, it's about public relations. Still, so I would say the vast majority, 70% of the American people, have a pretty good grip of what the facts are and what is happening. And then we have probably 20% of the population that are greatly misinformed, but they think they are well informed and they're spreading lies and mistruths. They're spreading lies, thinking that they have, and they have the real information and conspiracy theories and all this stuff. But they're very vocal. This is the tyranny of a vocal minority. And this is what we have here presently in the United States. And so they're well organized, they're armed, they're intimidating, they come out in force, and they act in lockstep, like a goose-step trained army, to come out and push out an agenda for one reason or another. That's what we have here. And it doesn't matter what the concerns are, what the issues are. You know, it's no difference to them if they're talking about gun rights or opening up a beauty salon. They're going to come out with the same level of force and push and bully people around and try and get those ideas across. I can't reach them. I can't worry about them. They're not my audience. What I'm trying to do is help the people who are level-headed, 70% of the population who want the facts and who want to know, they want actionable information about how they can keep themselves and their families safe. And that's what I try to do.
Just to wrap up this conversation, in the best of the worlds, giving you and journalism the power, what would look like the transformation of this world coming out of the COVID-19? I know it's a big question. I'm asking to envision a new world and how journalism can contribute to this new normal, to this new system, and just able to dream now, David. Now we have talked. We have to dream from time to time because we cannot forget that we can still do this, right?
Right. Well, I mean, COVID-19 or not COVID-19, everything depends on what happens on November 3rd on the general election, right, and what's going to happen with whether or not Donald Trump gets reelected to the presidency. But whoever wins, if Donald Trump gets reelected or Joe Biden or someone else becomes the next president, we're still going to be dealing with this COVID-19 crisis for a long time. The question is, right now we're dealing with the official number, I think, is 17% unemployment rate, which is the worst that we've seen since 1948. And probably the unemployment rate is actually around 20%. And we're going to be reaching, so we're still haven't really felt the weight of the economic disaster that we're going through right now. Simultaneously, we're seeing the rise of new technologies that could be transformative. So these developments are still happening. There's research and those products are still being rolled out. So we could see on the other side of this, as we try to ramp up the economy, and I'm trying to put an optimistic spin on it, you know, the rebirth of green energy, sustainable energy. People will probably refashion education. Frankly, the way that we've been doing school and education has been outmoded since, you know, the late 1990s. I mean, why do we still teach people like we did during the early days of the Industrial Revolution? You know, we should try to rethink about how do we identify what's the best modality for educating one certain child versus another and help them deal with that. We have the technology I know there's a lot of questions about the digital divide and whether or not there are people who are impoverished. So hopefully when we get through this, we recognize that we do need to fix that, but I really don't see, I think that is an exaggerated problem because basically from what I'm seeing from my own personal experience, and I've gone to some really working class neighborhoods and some really harsh homes, and there is a computer or there is a smart device that people do have access to. And, you know, even when I hang out, when I go to a homeless camp, there are people there with computers, you know. I mean, it's reached a point where it is, so not to say there aren't gaps and those should be identified and they should be fixed and they should be made readily available. But hopefully, you know, when we come out of this, we will be able to help young people, the great talent that we have, be able to get online and learn more, learn faster, learn what they love, and not be bogged down with learning stuff, you know, that's not beneficial. So, you know, there's, like I said, the Black Plague gave us the Renaissance. You know, we're not in a Black Plague. We're not going to lose, you know, a third of our population. But, you know, we are recognizing that people who work in our grocery stores and who do certain jobs are essential workers. Unfortunately, today, we're using the word essential as a substitute for the word disposable. You know, these are our disposable workers. We want them to go to the groceries, work in the grocery store so they can get infected and they can go away and whatever, as long as I get what I want out of them. So we need to treat the essential workers as if they truly are essential workers. And I mean the nurses and the people who work and help us help feed the country, from the people who are picking our food, people who are cutting our meat and packaging it up and helping all of us enjoy the best existence that any human has ever experienced on the face of the planet, what we have right now. I am trying to stay hopeful that we are going to get through this in better shape. But I do know that we have, if you look, I believe, my personal opinion is, if you look at the arc of where we are with this, we're not in the middle of what's happening. We're not at the end of the beginning. I kind of see us at the middle of the beginning of what is happening. And it's going to be a long time before we get to a point where we can say, boy, I'm glad that's over.
Well, okay. Thank you, David.
I don't know if any of that was any helpful to you or any useful, or am I rambling?
No, absolutely. You know, what is wonderful about this, okay, this media, I don't get to be around the table with you, but there is a beauty about this media that I have discovered. I have really a tight focus on you.
Okay.
I'm really looking at you. And I'm really listening. And I was telling one of my students the other day is that every time that I finish a conversation, I am exhausted. I am exhausted.
Welcome to my world.
I didn't know that. You should have told me. I am exhausted, but also I am so energized.
Yeah.
This is energizing me so much. I mean, I was in quarantine for 2 weeks alone. I could not hug my mother when I left. I couldn't hug my daughter when I got here. That was horrible. Once I finished, I thought, what the hell? I got to do something. And talking to people like this and sharing a conversation about something that is of substance has been life-saving to me. And I know from all the other people telling me the same. So yes, has been very, has been great to listen to you and to have this conversation with you. And I do thank you very much for that.
Well, I'm glad, I hope it's helpful to you. So what's going to happen to your immigration project? Is that this on hold? Is that going to happen?
We will never stop working on immigration. I
did a comic about immigration on the South Texas border. And can I send you the link to that?
Please.
You can take a look at it. Okay, all right. I work with an artist.
This afternoon, I talked to Denise LaRocque. And so we were about immigration, you know, so no, this is, no, I am an immigrant. I have done projects on immigration since 2007 here.
Yeah.
And it's important. Yeah, it is important. So we're gonna, even in this project, we're gonna deal with immigration. We don't yet really know, because really the project is gonna start May 20th.
Yeah.
But yes, send me the link.
Sure, I'll do that. So my plan for this year was, one thing that kills me is, like, we started the year out January 1st, 2020, and we all had ideas what the year was going to look like. And then it ran into a buzzsaw, and we just, you know, and now I think I'm kind of feeling like I can start trying to pick things up and figure out, okay, what can I work with? What can I do? What can I get accomplished? But my plan for 2020 is I wanted to do a big project about Alzheimer's in the Latino population and try to come up with a comic in Spanish dealing with that, because Latinos are 50% more likely to get Alzheimer's. It presents itself more early. It has this very severe, violent characteristics. It has all these, so it becomes a very, and there's very little understanding or studies or whatever in this area about why that is, and I wanted to work on that project in those lines, and then it's not happening, and I just feel like, you know, the opportunity cost that we're dealing with this coronavirus, and of course, you know, it's sucking up all of the oxygen and all these other things, but all these other horrible things are still happening.
Right.
And so we're dealing with the total eclipse of the sun, but you know, the sun is still there. It's not gone away. So we've still got to figure out, how do we get back to these things, and how do we salvage these projects and get them done, and fight for room for that space, because people's lives were complicated and they were horrible before COVID-19 came. So yeah, that's what I'm working on.
No, and you have a very good point, because there are still people that were suffering before, are still suffering now, and they are even suffering more. We
Yeah.
get that.
Everything has been made worse. Everything has been made worse. The people, the poor, the lack of health care, the injustice, people stuck in jails and prisons for dealing with sentences that were much too severe and harsh. And they're, you know, COVID-19 is running through these systems, and they're being ignored. They're being allowed to die. This cavalier attitude, people should be willing to die for the economy. You know, that is a horrible, horrible thing to be saying and to be repeating. And somehow that is the argument that we're fighting against. And it's like, you know, these lives matter, these people matter, and we need to help them. And anytime we can relieve suffering in this world, is that we're actually then we're doing something that actually is significant. Anyway, so I know you got to go, and I got to go too, but it was great talking with you.
Absolutely, and also, David, this project is called Performing Human Rights. It's going to become a class, and and it's going to become a summer program that start 2021. So we're going to go to Sicily and do this project. But meanwhile, if you want to collaborate with us on something,
sure, anything you want.
I can keep you posted. We can exchange things, and you know, because I'm working with a great team, and we are looking at the marginalized people. So and we are thinking about what happened to the immigrants, the ones that are in those places, detention centers. What's happening there? Now, where are the kids that have been given to other people to hold? You know, yes. So I'll keep you posted on what we're doing. Please send me the link.
So the immigration story is not going to go away.
No.
Trump sees immigration as his ace, and he's going to play it. Something is going to happen with immigration. He doesn't care what the headline is, if it's good or bad, as long as it's he's got to take the spotlight off of COVID-19 and put it back on immigration so that he can get reelected. And they're going to do something so horrible that your eyes are just going to shoot out of your head. There's going to be, I don't know what's going to happen, but this is the pattern that he has had in the past. And so just be ready. Something is going to happen. Trying to change the channel from COVID-19, they're going to need something to be even more horrible than this to get rally their base and vote for him. So be ready.
And when you have maybe sent a feeling this is happening, let us know that you know we have good resources and we can help and we can contribute
Yeah.
to the, we can contribute. That's what we
Yeah.
all let us
Right.
contribute.
Yeah. Okay. Well, great. It was great talking with Roberto. Thank you so much. I'll send you that link.
Thank you, David.
All right. Ciao.
Ciao. Stay safe.
You too.